Manassas City Public Schools Annual Employee Notifications for the 2021-22 school year. Manassas City Public Schools is an equal opportunity employer and is committed to non-discrimination in recruitment, selection, hiring, pay promotion, retention, and other personnel actions affecting employees or candidates for employment. It is prohibited to discriminate in employment against any person on the basis of race, color, creed, religion, national origin, ancestry, political affiliation, sex, sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, age, pregnancy, childbirth or related medical conditions, marital status, status as a veteran, genetic information, or disability. Personnel decisions shall be based on merit and the individual's ability to perform the essential functions of the job, with or without reasonable accommodation. If you believe that you haven't received equal employment opportunities, report the alleged discrimination as soon as possible, which is generally by 15 days. You can use a Report of Discrimination Form GB-F. Oral and written reports will be accepted. The MCPS compliance officers are Ms. Billie K. Wingfield and Dr. Eric Brent. Their contact information is identified on the slide. Harassment against students, employees, or others on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, race, color, national origin, disability, religion, ancestry, age, marital status, pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions, status as a veteran, genetic information, or any other characteristic protected by law or based on a belief that such characteristic exists, hereinafter referred to as protected group status, at school or any school-sponsored activity is prohibited. Students and school personnel that harass a student or school personnel based on protected group status at school or any school-sponsored activity, tolerate harassment based on a student's or employee's protected group status at school or any school-sponsored activity, by students, school personnel, or third parties participating in, observing, or otherwise engaged in school-sponsored activities, are in violation of the Prohibition Against Harassment and Retaliation policy. Harassment based on sex consists of unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct or communication which may include use of cell phones or the internet of a sexual nature when submission to that conduct or communication is made a term or condition, either explicitly or implicitly, of obtaining or retaining employment or education. When submission to or rejection of the conduct or communication by an individual is used as a factor in decisions affecting that individual's employment or education, or when that conduct or communication substantially or unreasonably interferes with an individual's employment or education, or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive employment or educational environment. Conduct which may constitute harassment based on sex include unwelcome sexual physical contact, unwelcome ongoing or repeated sexual flirtation or propositions or remarks, graphic comments about an individual's body, spreading sexual rumors, sexual jokes, notes, stories, drawings, gestures, or pictures. Sexual harassment prohibited by Title IX means conduct on the basis of sex that satisfies one or more of the following: an employee of the school board conditioning the provision of an aid, benefit, or service of the school board on an individual's participation in unwelcome sexual conduct, unwelcome conduct determined by a reasonable person to be so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively denies a person equal access to the school board's education program or activity, or sexual assault, dating violence, and domestic violence as defined by the United States codes. Title IX is a federal law that requires Manassas City Public Schools to respond when actual knowledge of a complaint of sexual harassment is received. This includes a report to any employee. As an employee, you have a legal duty to report a complaint to the Title IX coordinator when you have knowledge of a complaint of sexual harassment or it has been reported to you. A student, employee, or applicant that believes he or she has been subjected to prohibited harassment or other discrimination should report to the Title IX coordinator at title9coordinator@mcpsva.org or to any school personnel as soon as possible. The report should generally be made within 15 days of the occurrence. The report of harassment form under School Board Policy GBA-F or JFHA-F may be used. Oral reports and other written reports will be accepted. Manassas City Public Schools provides a work and school environment free from all forms of bullying, harassment, and/or intimidation. The work and school environment includes school property, at school-sponsored or school-related activities, and the bullying through the use of electronic technology. Bullying is any aggressive and unwanted behavior that is intended to harm, intimidate, or humiliate the victim, involves a real or perceived power imbalance between the aggressor or aggressors and victim, is repeated over time, or causes severe emotional trauma. Bullying includes, but isn't limited to, verbal or electronic communication, such as cyberbullying, emails, or text, as well as a physical act or gesture based on any actual or perceived differentiating characteristics, such as race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, gender, gender identity and expression, socioeconomic status, academic status, physical appearance, mental, physical, developmental, or sensory disability, or by association with an individual or group who has or is perceived to have one or more of such characteristics. Be advised that when your supervisor and/or administration enforces workplace policies and procedures, evaluates or measures performance, provides you with constructive feedback, denies your training or leave request with good reason, discusses disciplinary action in private, dismisses, suspends, demotes, or reprimands with just cause, this is not bullying. Any school personnel who believes he or she has been the victim of bullying based on sex, gender, race, color, or national origin, disability, religion, ancestry, age, marital status, or genetic information, or any other characteristics protected by law, or based on a belief that such a characteristic exists by a student, school personnel, or third party, should report the alleged bullying to his or her principal or one of the compliance officers. The alleged bullying should be reported as soon as possible, generally within 15 days of the occurrence. Bullying may be reported on Report of Bullying form found under School Board Policy GABB-F, given orally or given in a written report. The division compliance officers are Ms. Billie K. Wingfield, and Dr. Eric Brent. Their contact information is identified on the slide. The Family Medical Leave Act is a federal law that entitles eligible employees of covered employers to take job-protected leave for specified family and medical reasons with continuation of group health insurance coverage under the same terms and conditions as if the employee had not taken leave. To be eligible for FMLA, an employee must have worked for MCPS for at least 1 year and worked 1,250 hours over the previous 12 months. Employees should contact the benefits office when they have a condition that falls under FMLA and have been absent for 3 or more days. The benefits office staff may contact an employee about FMLA eligibility if they have an absence of 5 days or more consecutive days, or if the office has received notice of FMLA eligibility. FMLA provides up to 12 weeks of job-protected leave to eligible employees for the following reasons: the birth and care of a newborn child, the adoption or foster placement of a child, to care for the employee's spouse, son or daughter, or parent who has a serious health condition, because of a serious health condition that makes the employee unable to perform the essential functions of the employee's job, because of any qualifying exigency as defined in the Department of Labor's regulations arising out of the fact that the spouse or son or daughter or parent of the employee is on covered active duty in the armed forces. A serious health condition is defined as an illness, injury, impairment, or physical or mental condition that involves either continuing treatment by a healthcare provider for a condition that either prevents the employee from performing the functions of the employee's job or prevents the qualified family member from participating in school or daily activities. A serious health condition is also defined as an overnight stay in a medical care facility. Continuing treatment may be met by a period of incapacity of more than 3 consecutive calendar days combined with at least 2 visits to a healthcare provider, or 1 visit and a regimen of continuing treatment, or incapacity due to pregnancy or incapacity due to a chronic condition. Other conditions may meet the definition of continuing treatment. Eligible employees with a spouse, son, daughter, or parent on active duty or called to active duty status in the National Guard or Reserves in support of a contingency operation may use their 12-week leave entitlement to address certain qualifying exigencies, which include but aren't limited to attending certain military events, arranging for alternative child care, addressing certain financial and legal arrangements, attending certain counseling sessions, attending post-deployment reintegration briefings. Eligible employees may take up to 26 weeks of leave to care for a covered service member during a single 12-month period. A current member of the Armed Forces, including a member of the National Guard or Reserves, who has a serious injury or illness incurred in the line of duty on active duty that may render the service member medically unfit to perform his or her duties for which the service member is undergoing medical treatment, recuperation or therapy, or is in outpatient status, or is on the temporary disability retired list. It is the employee's responsibility to provide 30 days advance notice when the leave is foreseeable and practical. The benefits office must notify the employee if the FMLA is approved within 5 business days of receipt of certificate or other documentation. Please contact the benefits office in the Human Resources Department to obtain FMLA documents or if you would like more information. Using or distributing any tobacco product or nicotine vapor product on a school bus, school property, or an on-site or off-site school-sponsored activity is prohibited. Employees may not illegally manufacture, distribute, dispense, or possess a controlled substance at any school activity or on any school-sponsored trip. Division employees must notify the school board of criminal drug activity for a violation occurring on school property, at any school activity, or on any school-sponsored trip no later than 5 days after such conviction. When employees report to work and perform school-related activities, they must be prepared and able to perform their job duties. Employees shall not use alcohol or illegal drugs while performing their duties. This includes controlled substances or illegal drugs, the improper use of prescription drugs, alcohol, and working while impaired. If there is reasonable suspicion that an employee's work performance or on-the-job behavior may have been affected by illegal drugs, misuse of prescription drugs, or alcohol, he or she may be required to submit to a drug or alcohol test. An employee who refuses a drug and/or alcohol test is determined to have a positive test and will be subject to discipline up to and including dismissal. As identified in the Code of Virginia, as an employee of a public school division, you are a mandated reporter. Mandated reporters have a legal responsibility to report suspected abuse, neglect, and exploitation of children. The purpose of mandated reporting is to identify suspected abused and neglected children as soon as possible so that they can be protected from further harm. Child Protective Services, or CPS, cannot act until a report is made. Mandated reporters play a critical role in preventing any future harm to children. If you suspect that a child under the age of 18 or a vulnerable adult is being abused, neglected, or exploited, you should immediately report your concerns to your building administrator or the local Department of Social Services in your community. If you are not sure it's reportable, report it anyway. The Department of Social Services will make that determination. If you fail to report suspected child abuse or neglect as soon as possible, but not longer than 24 hours after having reason to suspect a reportable offense, you shall be fined not more than $500 for the first incident and $1,000 for any subsequent incidents. Manassas City Public Schools provides the network infrastructure and computing devices for legitimate instructional and operational purposes only. The Acceptable Computer System Use Agreement outlines what the acceptable and unacceptable uses of the system are. By using or accessing the computer system, employees agree to abide by the policy and supporting regulations. Information technology utilizes industry-standard monitoring, reporting, and protection utilities to safeguard computer systems and network resources. Users should not have any expectation of privacy when using the division's resources or electronic devices, including non-division-owned devices, while connected to the MCPS network or other computer resources. Every employee is expected to utilize the computer system in a responsible manner and for purposes that are in line with the primary mission of MCPS. A few of the key prohibited actions are listed above. While not comprehensive, this list serves as a reminder of methods to best ensure the security and integrity of MCPS data and its digital resources. Protecting MCPS electronic information or data is the responsibility of all staff members. This is especially critical when it involves data elements of our students. Federal, state, and local statutes and guidelines require everyone to do their part. Employees are not permitted to create student accounts, enter student information, or agree to the terms of an online application without prior approval and an assessment having been conducted by information technology. Telecommunications devices, such as desk phones, cell phones issued to certain employees, fax services, etc., are in place to support the instructional and administrative operations of MCPS. Employees must use these resources in a responsible and appropriate manner. To use names or images of students on school websites or social media, please refer to the student's media release in PowerSchool to confirm clearance. Be sure to review the recommended guidelines listed here regarding acceptable use of text or images. It is important to remember that employees are not to share student photos on personal social media accounts. When planning building activities, it is important to consider who the intended audience is and what resources are needed for success. Employees may visit the MyMCPS portal to access an event planning guide for assistance. Additionally, if you would like the superintendent or any member of the school board to attend or participate in an event, please visit their respective pages on the MCPS website. Using universal precautions and infection control techniques in all situations that may present the hazard of infection is a must. Remember to do all you can to ensure infection control. When in doubt, treat all human blood and potentially infectious materials like they are infectious. If you need it, personal protection equipment, or PPE, can be found with your school nurse or department supervisor. What is a bloodborne pathogen, or BBP? Pathogenic microorganisms that can be present in human blood or other potentially infectious materials and can cause disease in humans. Be sure to review the list of the things that are classified as BBPs, where they are found, and how they can be spread. BBPs can cause the following illnesses: hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. According to Virginia's school health guidelines, anticipating potential contact with infectious materials in routine and emergency situations is the most important step in preventing exposure to and transmission of infections. MCPS has an exposure control plan. Remember the quote by Benjamin Franklin, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." We should all be prepared to respond. Again, treat all blood and body fluids as if they are infectious all the time. Stop and use the proper PPE. Gloves also help with prevention. Single-use latex-free gloves are available from the school nurse or your department. Discard the single-use gloves by removing them in a way to avoid contact with the outer surface and place them in a lined trash can. Please take note of more PPE basics. Use PPE all the time. Be sure PPE is ready and available. Follow established procedures for cleaning laundry or disinfecting. Remove and dispose single-use PPE promptly and properly. PPE should also be removed before leaving the work area. Please take note of the proper way to remove gloves. The purpose of engineering and work practice controls is to eliminate or minimize employee exposure. Please follow the bulleted controls to maintain a safe work environment. According to the Centers for Disease Control, regular hand washing is one of the best ways to prevent the spread of germs and control disease. It is a win for everyone. Make sure you pay attention to the proper way to wash your hands to help prevent the spread of disease and contaminants. When it comes to cleaning spills of blood or other body fluids, please contact your building custodial staff for assistance. Do not attempt to handle the cleanup alone. It is important to use only approved housekeeping products and procedures for cleaning and disinfecting work sites. Disposal of trash must be handled with extreme care. Remember to wear gloves. Never use bare hands to pick up broken glass or sharp objects. Treat all can liners as if sharp objects could be hidden inside. Do not push down on overflowing trash. Be sure to hold the bag away from you when disposing trash. Double bag the trash if there is a possibility of leakage. All staff should be able to recognize the red biohazard or regulated waste symbol. When this icon is present, waste must be disposed of in accordance with applicable regulations. Staff who handle contaminated laundry shall utilize universal precautions and wear appropriate PPE. Please review the procedures for handling contaminated laundry. The most common blood-borne pathogen that OSHA standards address is hepatitis B. One way to protect against hepatitis B is through vaccination. The vaccine is available at no cost to employees determined to have a higher occupational risk of exposure to blood or other potentially infectious materials. An employee may choose to decline the vaccine for hepatitis B. If that happens, a mandatory declaration statement must be signed and maintained in the employee's personnel file. Employees can change their mind at any time and receive the vaccine. If you are ever exposed to blood or body fluid, do not panic. Wash the area thoroughly with soap and water and report the incident to your supervisor immediately. It is also very important to document what happened so proper follow-up can be made. Annually, OSHA requires employers to provide staff training to maintain a safe and healthy work environment. 100% compliance is necessary when it comes to universal precautions. Lack of training, failure to follow training, rushing through training, negligence of PPE readiness and accessibility, lack of attention to or awareness of hazards, and an attitude that says, "It won't happen to me," should all be avoided. Failure to follow safety procedures or use PPE may result in disciplinary action, including termination. Medical records are maintained for the duration of employment plus 30 years. Training records are maintained for 3 years from the date of training. Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, is an environmentally friendly program that reduces human exposure to pesticides using the least toxic and most effective way to control pest population. All employees should report any issues in the pest control logbook in the school's main office. MCPS is in compliance with the requirements of OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard. This program applies to all work operations in our school division where employees may be exposed to hazardous substances under normal working conditions or during an emergency situation. Each employee of the school board is to receive a health and safety orientation from their immediate supervisor so proper safety measures can be taken. The Asbestos Hazard Emergency Response Act, or AHERA, requires local education agencies to inspect their schools for asbestos-containing building material and prepare management plans to prevent or reduce asbestos hazards. Thank you for reviewing the annual employee notifications for the 2021-2022 school year. If you have any questions, please contact your supervisor or the appropriate department.